If my kid hangs out with your kids and my kid is the only kid that does not come back alive, everybody dies.
An 18-year-old star football player found dead after vanishing during a 4th of July boating trip with friends, as questions swirl about what led up to the teenager's tragic death.
Well, the fact that they continue to tell the family that we don't see any evidence of any foul play, even though you have students who recorded an altercation.
We live in a world right now where you will accept the very worst of us. You will say, he scared me, he attacked me. All you have to do is conjure up this notion of the angry black man.
Mississippi authorities have now announced that Nolan Wells' death was not the result of a crime and that they found no signs of foul play. But if you've been following this case even a little, you already know that something doesn't add up. And Nolan's family isn't convinced either. They've requested an independent autopsy and claim that law enforcement is attempting to withhold evidence, including a video that allegedly shows Nolan involved in some kind of confrontation with his so-called friends shortly before he was found dead. And now, DL Hughley is weighing in on the situation, pointing out that this isn't the first time authorities quickly concluded there was no foul play after a black person died while spending time with a group of white people. We'll get into that in a moment, but first, here's a breakdown of the timeline for anyone just getting caught up on this case. On July 4th, 18-year-old student-athlete Nolan Wells from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, traveled to the remote Horn Island with a group of white boys on a private boat. His friends returned to the mainland at around 4:30 in the afternoon, but Nolan remained behind. According to the story, he was speaking with a girl and planned to catch a ride back with someone else, but he never returned home, and his mother reported him missing that same night. Then, on July 6th, a park ranger discovered Nolan's body in the water near the northwest end of Horn Island. Authorities identified him through dental records, and an autopsy was conducted on July 7th. However, those autopsy findings have not been made public. At first, local officials stated that they intended to conduct a full investigation into the case, but just 2 days later they announced that there was no evidence of foul play, even though the investigation remains active. And here's where the official explanation starts raising eyebrows. Even though authorities insist there is no indication of foul play, a video has surfaced that appears to capture a tense confrontation on Horn Island in the same area where Nolan's body was later discovered. Now, let's talk about the group of white boys Nolan was with. Almost immediately after all of this happened, they lawyered up and deactivated their social media accounts. The complete list of the friends who were on that boat has not been publicly released, and honestly, that's not surprising. However, online investigators have managed to identify one of them. His name is Warren Cole, and he's the son of Ashley Cole, a District 16 to 2 judge in Mississippi. And she's already releasing statements aimed at shutting down speculation surrounding her son's possible connection to the case. She also acknowledged deleting her social media accounts, claiming she did so because she feared for her son's safety. On top of that, she said she wanted to ensure that no one in her family could be accused of interfering with the investigation because her son is fully cooperating with law enforcement. But if she truly isn't trying to influence anything, then why make a public statement in the first place? Why does a judge whose son is connected to an active death investigation feel compelled to get ahead of the narrative like this? And by the way, her son's explanation is that the boat was, quote, taking on water and was having, quote, problems with the bilge pump. According to him, that's why they had to leave at 4:30. He claimed they needed to get the boat back before it went under. So, your boat is supposedly sinking and you're dealing with an emergency situation. Yet you leave your friend behind on the island, and he somehow decides to remain there with no food, no water, and no way to contact anyone. Now, this is where the story becomes even more unbelievable. Nolan's family has hired prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump, and he revealed that Nolan's friends left the island but took Nolan's phone with them. Just think about that for a second. They abandoned him on a remote barrier island, but somehow remembered to bring his phone back when they left. Nolan's mother confirmed this detail and said that during the search, she and Nolan's father actually had possession of his phone while they were looking for him. In other words, The phone made it back to the mainland before Nolan ever did. And Ben Crump also stated that when the family finally got the phone back, they immediately realized something seemed off. Several messages had been deleted, and now they're trying to determine exactly why.
Have been asked to turn over his cell phone to the Mississippi law enforcement authorities, but even that is troubling to them because they're saying messages that were deleted from his cell phone, so they want to try to dot every I and cross every T and investigate everything. They said it's very improbable that Nolan would not have wanted his cell phone with him if he was going to stay on the island.
The deleted text messages on his phone, his parents found that? Who found that out?
Now, well, they got his phone, so they're trying to figure out there's deletions on the phone, and they're trying to look at what is that about. There's so many inconsistencies going on. And
on top of that, Crump also disclosed that Nolan's friends allegedly tried to pressure him into taking certain substances. He refused, and that reportedly sparked the confrontation. Nolan had a Division I football tryout approaching. He was staying clean, wasn't drinking, and wasn't doing anything that could jeopardize his opportunity. According to Ben Crump, Nolan made it clear that he didn't want to take part in anything that might appear in his system. But the other kids on that boat were allegedly pushing him, and he wasn't interested in going along with it. Then there are the conflicting accounts. The girl Nolan was last seen speaking with around 3 p.m. told investigators that after their conversation, Nolan said he was heading back to the boat. However, the boys on the boat claim Nolan told them he planned to stay with her. So which version is true? She's saying he returned to the boat. They're saying he didn't. Either someone isn't telling the truth, or everyone involved is working together and intentionally muddying the investigation. Now, let me explain why this case has generated such a strong reaction online beyond the obvious concerns. This isn't the first time a Black person has died under suspicious circumstances after spending time with a group of white people. Remember the Tamla Horsford case from 2018? Tamla was a 40-year-old Black mother of 5 who attended a sleepover gathering in Georgia with 7 white women and 3 white men. The following morning, she was found dead in the backyard. She had injuries to her head, neck, and torso, but officials concluded that she became intoxicated, fell from a deck, and that was the end of it. Naturally, Tamla's family wasn't convinced by that explanation, and they hired their own medical examiner who stated that those injuries could not have resulted from a single fall. Then it was revealed that the boyfriend of one of the women at the party was a court employee who was later fired for illegally accessing files related to her case. He was also the person who discovered Tamla's body. As public pressure intensified, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation reopened the case, but it was closed again not long afterward, and no criminal charges were ever brought. Because of that, many people are now looking at Nolan Wells' case and saying it feels like history repeating itself. And this is where D.L. Hughley enters the conversation. He referenced Tamla Horsford's case and shared side-by-side images of Tamla and Nolan alongside their white friends. In the caption, he wrote, "Somehow, there's always a lack of evidence of foul play." And given Mississippi's history, many people are now speculating that local authorities may be actively covering up what really happened to Nolan. One person on X wrote, "Since Nolan Wells was more than likely flirting with a white girl, I think every unusual incident reported on the island that day should be investigated. There could have been someone else there who was angry about him being with a white girl. It is Mississippi after all." Another user commented, "How many times is Mississippi going to repeat history?" The story of Emmett Till is remembered as a rare tragedy, but my home state continues to repeat itself with a different young Black man far too often. So often that I saw the photos of Nolan Wells on that boat and knew he was the missing person before I even read the story. So often that I saw a young Black man surrounded by white men and immediately felt a pit in my stomach. Rest in power to Emmett Till, Nolan Wells, and every Black child in between. But let me know what you think about this case. How do you feel about police so quickly ruling out foul play? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll bring you any updates as soon as new information becomes available.